room. It was 10 at night when I called my son to confirm the time for Christmas dinner. His voice sounded distant, almost annoyed by the interruption. "Dad, dinner will be with Emily's parents. It is something more special. I hope you understand." He hung up before I could answer. I stood there, phone in hand, feeling how 30 years of effort crumbled in a single phrase, special. That word echoed in my head like a hammer against steel. What was so special about my daughter-in-law's parents? That I did not have. Had he forgotten who paid for his university? Who gave him the down payment for his first house? Who deposited money into his account every month, without fail, when he was barely starting his career as an architect? My name is Robert Sanchez. I am 68 years old, and I built a fortune that few men of my generation achieved. 3 properties in the city, a lake house, and shares in 2 companies I founded with my own hands. I inherited nothing. Every dollar I have carries the sweat of my sleepless nights, of endless trips, of cold meals because I arrived late from work. I married young. Laura was an extraordinary woman who gave me 2 children, Michael and Sarah. Laura died 5 years ago of cancer. The last few months were a hell that I faced alone because Michael was too busy with his new family. And Sarah lived in Seattle, calling once a month, if at all. When Laura closed her eyes for the last time, I was holding her hand. Michael arrived at the funeral 2 hours late because traffic was impossible. After Laura's death, everything changed. Or maybe it was always like that and I was too busy building a future to notice. Michael married Emily 3 years ago. She is a woman from a wealthy family, an only child, used to the world revolving around her. From the beginning, I noticed the way she looked at me, like I was an old piece of furniture that was in the way, but I stayed silent. Parents always stay silent too much. The wedding costs over $50,000. I paid 60%. Emily's parents paid the rest and made sure everyone knew it. During the toast, her father, a businessman with more ego than brains, gave a 20-I-knot speech about the effort it took to give his princess the wedding of her dreams. He did not mention my name a single time. Michael did not do it either. That night, while watching my son dance with his new wife, I had a strange sensation in my chest. It was not exactly sadness. It was the feeling that something had broken forever. The first months after the wedding were a slow disappearance. Calls became scarce. Visits were non-existent. There was always an excuse. Work, social commitments, trips. Emily had a special skill for scheduling family plans. Exactly when I hoped to see Michael. One day my son told me they needed help to remodel the kitchen. $20,000. I gave it to them without thinking twice. 3 weeks later, I saw photos of their trip to Europe on Emily's Facebook. We needed to disconnect. The caption read, "The kitchen was never remodeled, but I kept depositing money every month. I kept helping. I kept being the father they needed when it suited them." 6 months ago, my grandson Matthew was born. When Michael called to give me the news, I cried like I had not cried since Laura's funeral. I thought a grandson could give me back something of what I had lost. I thought the family would be what it once was. How naive I was. The first few weeks, I tried to visit them constantly. I brought gifts, baby clothes, toys. Emily received me at the door with a tense smile. "Robert, thanks. But it is the baby's nap time." "Oh, Robert, today is not a good day. We have guests always, Robert. Never dad, never grandpa." As if I were a door-to-door salesman. Michael said nothing. He just looked at his phone while his wife dismissed me. Emily's parents, on the other hand, seemed to live in that house. Every time I managed to get inside, there they were, hogging the baby, giving orders, rearranging the furniture. Emily's mother, Linda, a woman with a voice like an ambulance siren, looked at me with barely disguised contempt. "Oh, Robert, I did not know you were coming. We always call ahead." One afternoon, while holding Matthew for the first time in 3 weeks, I heard Linda tell Emily in the kitchen, "I do not understand why he keeps coming if it is obvious he is not needed here." Michael was sitting 6 feet away. He said absolutely nothing. That night, driving back to my empty house, I understood something fundamental. To my son, I had become a resource, not a father. And to Emily, I was simply a nuisance she tolerated, because my bank account was still useful. But one does not build an empire by being naive. One does not survive 40 years in business without learning to read people. And I had just finished reading my own family. December arrived with its fake joy. The malls filled with lights, the streets with carols, social media with falsely perfect families. I spend my days in my office reviewing contracts, checking investments, keeping my mind busy so as not to think about Christmas Eve dinner, because I knew deep in my soul that something bad was going to happen. On December 15th, Michael called me. His voice sounded strangely animated. "Dad, Emily, and I want to do something special for Christmas, an unforgettable dinner at the house, but with the baby and expenses, it is a bit tight. Do you think you could help us?" The request was clear. $1,500 for Christmas dinner, imported turkey, wines, decorations, gifts. "I want my son to have his first perfect Christmas," he told me, and I, like the idiot I had been for years, said yes. I transferred the money that same afternoon. "Thanks, Dad. We expect you on the 24th at 8. It is going to be a special night." During the following days, I bought gifts for Matthew, designer clothes, educational toys, a first edition of a storybook I used to read to Michael when he was a boy. I wrapped each gift with care, imagining my son's face when he saw how much I cared about his family. On December 20th, I received a WhatsApp message from Emily, a photo from the airport. She, Michael, and the baby posing in front of the boarding gates. "We are going away for a few days to rest. Happy holidays." I called Michael immediately. He answered on the 5th ring with airport background noise. "Dad, we are about to board." "Where are you going? You told me dinner was at your house." There was an awkward silence. I heard Emily's voice in the background telling him something I could not catch. "Dad, an amazing opportunity came up. Emily's parents invited us to their beach house. You know how this is. Reservations were made in advance, and the money I gave you for dinner." Another silence. "Well, we used it for tickets and part of the trip. We needed a family vacation. You understand, right?" I did not understand anything. Or rather, I understood everything perfectly. On Christmas dinner. That. Well, we are going to do it there. With Emily's parents. They have an incredible house on the coast. It is going to be something more special. I hope you understand, Dad. It is not personal. Special. There was that word again, like a slap in the face. And me. "Well, you can do something quiet at your house, or go with Sarah. Don't you always say you need time for yourself?" The line went dead before I could respond. He did not call me back. I sat in my study for hours, watching the daylight turn into darkness. The wrapped gifts were piled in the corner next to the tree I had decorated alone. The house was silent, a silence that hurt more than any scream. That night, I did not sleep. I sat in front of my computer and reviewed all bank movements from the last 3 years. Every transfer to Michael, every loan he never paid back, every emergency that turned out to be a whim. It added up to over $100,000. $100,000 that my son had received without a sincere thank you. $100,000 that had bought trips, designer clothes, expensive restaurants, luxuries to impress the in-laws who were actually special. And I, the one who built everything from zero, the one who never denied them anything, was not special enough to spend Christmas with my only grandson. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I made a decision. I was not going to yell at them. I was not going to beg them. I was not going to humiliate myself asking for a seat at the table I had paid for myself. I was going to do something much more effective. I opened my email and wrote to my accountant. "I need you to cancel all automatic transfers to Michael Sanchez's account. Effective immediately." Then I called the bank and blocked the additional credit cards I had given him. Finally, I contacted the property manager where Michael lived. "The lease is in my name. I want to review the early termination clauses because that house, like many other things in my son's life, was paid for by me. It was not revenge, it was justice. If I was not special enough for them, then they would discover how special it was to live without my money." Christmas arrived. I spent December 24th alone with a simple dinner I prepared myself. I did not play music. I did not watch Christmas movies. I simply sat on the terrace with a glass of whiskey, watching the city lights. My phone remained silent. All day, not a message, not a call, as if I did not exist. But I existed, and I was about to remind them exactly who I was. On December 28th, 3 days after Christmas, my phone rang at 11 at night. It was Michael. I answered on the 3rd ring. "Dad." His voice sounded altered, almost desperate. "Are you there?" "I am here. There is a serious problem. We got back from the trip today, and the house has no power. I called the electric company, and they say the bill was not paid. It hasn't been paid for 2 months. Did you forget that? We have a baby. We cannot be without power. I leaned back in my chair. I took a sip of my coffee and smiled. I did not forget anything, Michael. Then what happened? We need you to fix it. Emily is furious. The baby is crying. It is cold and I am cancelling everything. Silence. What? The power payment, the water, the gas, the house lease, the monthly transfers, the credit cards, everything. I am cancelling everything. Dad, you cannot do that. We have a family. We have a baby. I had a family, too. Or so I thought. This is because we did not invite you to dinner, right? Dad, do not be like that. I already explained that it was something special. Yes, I understood perfectly. Now, I hope you understand this. It is over. What is over? The bank of Dad, the favors, the transfers, everything. From now on, son, you are going to learn to live on your own money. The money you earn without my help. But Dad, Merry Christmas. Michael, I hope it was special. I hung up. The phone started ringing immediately. One call, 2510. Then the messages arrived from Michael, from Emily, even one from Linda, Emily's mother, with a condescending tone. Robert, I know you're upset, but this is childish. Think of your grandson. I did not answer any of them. That night, I slept better than I had in months, because I had finally recovered something I had lost a long time ago. My dignity. The following days were a festival of missed calls and increasingly desperate messages. Michael tried all strategies. First, anger. You are selfish. You cannot do this to us. Then, guilt. Mum would be disappointed in you. Then, negotiation. Okay, we made a mistake. Can we talk? And finally pleading, Dad, please, we need you. But I had learned something fundamental in my life. Respect is not begged for, it is earned. And they had lost the right to ask me for anything. On January 3rd, Emily appeared at my house. She rang the doorbell insistently until I opened. She was carrying the baby who was crying. She also had red eyes. Robert, please, we need to talk. I looked at her in silence. I know Michael made a mistake. I know I made a mistake. But you cannot punish the baby for our errors. I am not punishing anyone. I simply stopped giving away what is not valued. We need your help. Rent is due in a week, and then I suggest your husband find a better job. Or did you ask your parents for help, the special ones? Her face transformed. The mask of pleading fell, and the real Emily appeared, the one who had always despised me. You are a bitter old man. Michael is right. You have never known how to be a good father. Maybe you were right, but I know very well how to stop being an idiot. I closed the door. Her screams resonated in the street for 5 minutes. Then she left. I did not feel guilt. I did not feel remorse. I felt peace. The first days of January passed with a strange calm. My phone kept receiving messages, but with less frequency. Michael had gone from desperation to negotiation and then to resentful silence. Emily, for her part, had blocked my number after our last encounter. I did not care. I had built my life from zero twice. Once when I was young and poor, another when Laura died and left me alone in this huge house. I could rebuild my relationship with solitude a third time. Or so I thought. On January 9th, I received a call from Sarah, my daughter, the one who lived in Seattle and barely spoke to me twice a year. Her voice sounded worried, but also annoyed. Dad, what did you do? Good morning, Sarah. How are you? Michael called me, crying. He says, you kicked them out, that you took everything away, that they are about to lose their house. I poured myself a coffee while I listened. I already knew this story. I already knew how it would end. Is that what he told you? Dad, they have a baby. You cannot be so cruel. Cruel. I am the cruel one. I know Michael did not invite you to Christmas, but that does not justify. Sarah, when was the last time we spoke? Silence. When was the last time you visited me? When was the last time you remembered you have a father? Dad, I have my life in Seattle. I have my job. You have your life. Michael has his. Everyone has their lives. Everyone except me. Apparently, I only exist when you need money. It is not fair. Let you know what is not fair, Sarah. Bearing your mother practically alone because you were too busy spending 3 consecutive Christmases dining in restaurants because neither of my children had time for me. Discovering that the money I gave for a kitchen was spent on a trip to Europe. That is not fair. Another silence. Longer. I didn't know that. Of course you didn't know. Because you never ask. Neither of you asks. You only call when you need something. Dad, Sarah, I love you. You are my daughter and you always will be. But I am not going to continue being an ATM with feelings. If Michael needs help, let him work. If you need something, we can talk like adults. But gifts without reciprocity are over. Money without respect is over. She hung up without saying goodbye. That night, sitting in my study, I reviewed the family photographs I kept in my desk drawer. Laura and I at our wedding, the small children laughing on the beach. Michael graduating from university in his cap and gown. Sarah the day she moved to Seattle hugging me at the airport. At what moment had everything broken down? At what moment did I go from being dad to being a nuisance with a checkbook? The answer arrived with brutal clarity. When I stopped demanding respect because I was afraid of being left alone, but now I was alone anyway. The difference was that I had chosen this solitude, and there was dignity in that. On January 15th, my accountant called me with interesting news. Mr. Sanchez, I received a call from the bank. Your son Michael tried to use one of the credit cards you connected. The transaction was denied. He also tried to apply for a loan using his house as collateral. But since the property is in your name, he would need your authorization. How much did he try to take out? $7,500. I laughed. A bitter laugh that tasted like victory. Let them deny him everything. Everything in my name remains blocked. Understood? I also inform you that Mrs. Emily Herrera tried to contact me directly. She wanted to know if there was any way to negotiate with you. What did you tell her? That all communications must go through you. She got quite upset. Perfect. Keep it up. That same afternoon, while having lunch at my favorite restaurant, a discreet place downtown where I had known the owner for 20 years, I received a message from an unknown number. Robert, I am Linda, Emily's mum. We need to talk. It is urgent. I left the phone on the table and continued eating my steak. It was perfectly medium rare, just how I liked it. The red wine was a reserve I had personally chosen. The background music was soft jazz. Everything was perfect. The phone vibrated again. Robert, I know you are there. Answer. This is for the good of your grandson. Always the grandson. Always the guilt. I dialed the number. Linda answered on the first ring with her usual shrill voice. Robert, good thing you answered. Look, I know you have had differences with the kids, but this has gotten out of control. Emily is very stressed. Michael cannot concentrate on his work. The baby is suffering, or you are suffering because you no longer have access to my money. Do not be rude. This is serious. You are right. It is very serious. It's so serious that I need you to understand something. Linda, your daughter and my son are adults. Adults who decided to use me as a personal bank while excluding me from their family. Now they are learning what real life costs. But you have plenty of money. What does it cost you to help them? That question, that damn question that sums up everything that is wrong. What does it cost me? It cost me 30 years of work. It cost me building a business from scratch. It cost me sacrificing time with my family to give them a future. And now it costs me my dignity to keep giving away what is not valued. You are selfish. A selfish old man who I hung up. I blocked the number and I ordered dessert. Days turned into weeks. February arrived with its cold, dry air. I had resumed my routine. Gym in the mornings, office until noon, meals with old friends, reading in the afternoons. I had forgotten how good it felt to live for oneself. My businesses were prospering. Without family distractions, I had closed 2 major contracts. My wealth kept growing. Ironic, I thought. While my family was crumbling, my fortune was increasing. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, I received a package at my door. It was a large box wrapped in pink paper. I opened it with curiosity. Inside was a photo album. Photos of Matthew, my grandson, smiling, sleeping, playing. On every page, there was a handwritten note from Michael. Dad, this is your grandson, the one you are not getting to know because of pride. Matthew will ask about you someday. I go on to tell him Mom would have never wanted this. The last page had a photo of Laura, my late wife, holding Michael as a baby. Underneath, in my son's handwriting, she taught you to love. Do not forget it. I closed the album with force. My hands were trembling, not from sadness, from fury. How dared he use Laura's memory to manipulate me? How dared he speak to me of love when he had treated me like garbage? I took the album and put it in the deepest drawer of my desk. I did not throw it away. I could not. But I was not going to let that cheap tactic work either. Laura taught me to love, yes, but she also taught me to respect myself. On March 1st, my lawyer called me with information that would change everything. Mr. Sanchez, I have news about the property where your son lives. Tell me, the lease expires on March 31st. I have reviewed the clauses, and you have the right not to renew without giving explanations. Furthermore, Michael is 2 months behind on rent. We could start an eviction process if necessary. 2 months behind on a rent that was not exactly expensive. What was my son spending his money on? What do you recommend? Legally you can recover the property without problems, but being your son, maybe you want to consider. I am not going to renew the contract. Silence on the other end. Mr. Sanchez, do you understand what this means? I know perfectly well what it means. I am not going to renew. I want the property back by the end of March. Very well. I will prepare the legal notice. I hung up and poured myself a whiskey. It was 11 o'clock in the morning, but this decision merited a drink. I was not throwing my son out on the street. I was recovering what was mine. There is a fundamental difference there. Michael received the notice on March 5th. 2 hours later, he was pounding on my door like a madman. I did not open. I had security cameras, and I could see him from my phone. He was screaming, hitting the door, crying, "Dad, open up. We have to talk. He cannot do this to us. He can't." After 20 minutes, he gave up and left. That night, I received a voice message from Emily. Her voice was pure poison. "Robert, you are a piece of trash human being. You are leaving us on the street. Your grandson. Do you know what kind of grandfather you are? A monster. That is what you are. And when Matthew grows up, I am going to tell him exactly what kind of man you are. He is going to be ashamed to carry your last name." I deleted the message without finishing it. On March 10th, Michael appeared at my office. He had dodged my secretary and walked straight into my private office. He looked terrible, gaunt with deep dark circles, a beard of several days. "Dad, please." I leaned back in my chair and observed him. For a moment, I saw the boy who used to climb on my knees asking me to take him to the park. That memory hurt more than any insult. "Sit down." He collapsed into the chair in front of my desk. He looked like a defeated man. "Dad, I am sorry. I am sorry for everything. Christmas, the lies, the money, everything. Are you sorry, or are you sorry that the money ran out?" "Both." At least he was honest. That was something. "Michael, do you know how much money I have given you in the last 3 years? He shook his head. $115,000. That is not counting the rent I pay monthly, the utilities, the insurance for the car you drive, the cell phone plan. He turned pale. "No, did not know it was that much." Of course, he did not know, because money that does not cost you is not valued. "Dad, I work. I earn well. Then why are you 2 months behind on rent? Why did you try to take out a loan using my property? Why does Emily ask my accountant for money?" He had no answers. "I am going to tell you why. Because you are living beyond your means. Because you want to fake a standard of living you do not have. Because your wife needs to impress her friends and you need to impress your in-laws." The idiot was paying for that fantasy. "Dad, I have not finished. Do you know what hurts me the most, Michael? It is not the money. I can make the money back. What I cannot get back are the Christmases I spent alone. The calls you never answered. The times your wife slammed the door in my face. The way I became a nuisance in my own son's life." He started to cry, silent tears running down his cheeks. "I am sorry, Dad. I really am sorry. I know, but sorry is not enough. What do you want me to do? Tell me anything." I stood up and walked to the window. The city stretched out in front of me. Thousands of people living their lives, facing their problems, building their futures, each one of them dealing with their own pains. I want you to learn to live without me. I want you to value what you have through your own effort. I want that. When Matthew grows up, you teach him that dignity is not sold, that respect is not begged for, that family is not a convenient concept that activates when money is needed. Do not kick us out of the house, please. It is already decided. What are we going to go? That son is your problem, not mine. He stayed there, sitting, crying like a child. Part of me wanted to hug him, to tell him everything would be okay, that I would fix it like always. But that part of me was the one that had led us to this point. The other part, the part that had built an empire with his own hands, knew this. Was necessary, he can go. He got up slowly, walked to the door, stopped before leaving. "Mum was right about you." I turned around. "What, before dying?" "Mum told me something. She told me, "Your father is the strongest man I know, but his only weakness is you. Kids, please do not abuse that." His words hit me like a punch to the stomach. We abused that, Dad, and now it is too late. He left, closing the door behind him. I stood there facing the window, feeling a pain in my chest that was not physical, but hurt as if it were. Laura had seen all this coming. Laura, with her silent wisdom, had known my children would take advantage of my love, and I had not listened to her. That night, I drank more than I had drunk in years. Not until getting drunk, but until the pain became manageable. I took out the album Michael had sent me and looked at it completely. Every photo of Matthew, every smile, every moment I was missing. Was it worth it? Was this pain worth it to defend my dignity? The answer came with absolute clarity. Yes, because if I gave in now, if I went back to being the emotional ATM, I would be teaching Matthew that it is okay to use people. I would be perpetuating the cycle. And I loved that boy too much to teach him that lesson. On March 20th, 3 weeks after our conversation in the office, Michael called me. "Dad, we found an apartment. It is smaller in a not-so-good area, but it is what we can pay with my salary. I am glad. We need the deposit, and the first month it is $2,000. There it was, the real reason for the call. "Michael, did you understand anything of what we talked about?" "Dad, I have no one else to ask," Emily's parents said. "No, that we got ourselves into this problem, and that we have to solve it. Please." The irony was delicious. The special in-laws had turned out to be tougher than me, and what does Emily say? She is furious. She says, "This is your fault, that if you were a normal father..." Stop. Silence. Michael, listen to me well. I am not going to give you that money. I am not going to give you anything. You can sell your television. You can sell your furniture. You can take out a loan at the bank. You can do what millions of people do every day. Solve it with your own resources. Dad, we are your family. Then, learn to treat me like family, not like a bank. I hung up. This time there were no more calls, no more pleas. It was as if they had finally understood I was serious. On March 31st, the day the contract expired, I sent my lawyer to supervise that the property was empty. He reported to me at 6 o'clock in the evening. "Mr. Sanchez, the property is vacated. They left everything clean. There were no damages. They left the keys with the doorman. Did you see Michael?" "No, sir. Only some movers. He hadn't even had the courage to face me." That night, I went to the property. It was a beautiful apartment in the Heights. 3 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, terrace, with city view. I had bought it 10 years ago as an investment. Michael had lived there the last 5 years without paying a single dollar of rent. I walked through the empty rooms. My steps echoed in the silence. In the room that had been Matthew's, I found a drawing, stuck to the wall, colored scribbles made by a childish hand. I peeled it off carefully and put it in my wallet. It was the only thing I would take from there. April began with a disturbing calm. I knew nothing of Michael. I did not know where he lived, how he was, if Matthew was okay. Part of me wanted to call, ask, make sure they were not going hungry. But the stronger part of me knew that asking would be surrendering, and I do not surrender. On April 15th, while checking my email at the office, I received a notification from LinkedIn. Michael had updated his profile. New job, a position at a smaller architecture firm than the previous one, but with a title of greater responsibility. I felt something similar to pride. My son was fighting. A week later, Sarah called me for the first time in months. "Dad, can we talk?" "Sure. I want to come see you. I'm coming this weekend. Do you have time?" My daughter wanted to see me without asking me for money first, without excuses. I have all the time in the world. On Saturday, Sarah arrived at my house with 2 suitcases. She had cried in the taxi from the airport. She told me. I did not know what to expect. We sat on the terrace with coffee. She looked different, more mature, sadder. "Too, Dad." I spoke with Michael. "How is he?" "Destroyed, but also different. He is working harder than ever. Emily had to get a job, too. They're living in a small apartment downtown. Matthew is in a public daycare." Every word was a dagger in my chest, but I maintained a neutral expression. "I am glad he is working." "Dad, is all this worth it? Is it worth losing your family for pride?" "It is not pride, Sarah. It is dignity, and yes, it is worth it." She cried. I wanted to cry, too, but I didn't. "I came to tell you something. she said finally. "I came to ask for forgiveness for not being there when Mum died, for not calling you, for treating you like an ATM. Michael is not the only one who did it wrong. I did not expect that. I also came to tell you that I admire you, that what you did was the hardest thing a father can do, letting his children fall so they learn to get up." I got up from my chair and hugged her. I hugged her like I hadn't hugged anyone since Laura died. And there on that terrace, with my daughter in my arms, I felt something beginning to heal. Not everything, but something. "Can you stay a few days?" I asked her. "I am staying all week if you invite me." "Of course. You will always be welcome. In this house, always." That week with Sarah was a gift. We cooked together. We watched movies. We talked about Laura, about the mistakes of the past, about the uncertain future. She told me about her life in Seattle, about her work as a veterinarian, about her boyfriend, who wanted to meet me. "Why did you never tell me?" I asked her. "Because I thought you didn't care. That you only cared about Michael because he needed you more." God, is that how my daughter had seen me all these years? "Sarah, you have always been important to me. I know now, but before, I didn't know." Another painful lesson. In my attempt to help Michael, I had neglected Sarah. I had assumed that because she was independent, she didn't need me. We all need to be needed. The last day before Sarah returned to Seattle, she told me something I will never forget. "Dad, Michael asked me to tell you something." I told him no, that he had to tell you himself. But he insisted. "What thing?" He says, "Thank you." Daddy hates admitting it, but this has been the most important lesson of his life. Daddy is learning to be the man you wanted him to be, and that someday when he is ready, when he has something to offer you besides need, he is going to knock on your door. My chest hurt again, but it was a different pain. A pain that healed while it hurt. Tell him the door will always be open, but he has to knock on it. I am not going to look for him. Sarah nodded. I know, and he knows it too. I took her to the airport. We said goodbye with a long hug. She promised to call me every week, and she kept her promise. May arrived with its suffocating heat and stormy afternoons. I had resumed my life completely. I had made new friends at the gym. I had traveled for pleasure for the first time in years. I had started writing my memoirs. Life without the burden of ungrateful children was surprisingly good. But at night, when the house was silent, I took out Matthew's drawing from my wallet and wondered if someday I would know him for real. If someday I could be the grandfather I wanted to be. Time would tell. For now, I had recovered something more valuable than any relationship. I had recovered myself, and that, I discovered, was enough. June brought with it a routine I hadn't experienced in decades. Genuine peace. I woke up early, not because I had urgent obligations, but because finally I slept well. The nightmares about my children's future had ceased. The constant knot in my stomach had disappeared. For the first time in years, I felt free. I had started taking photography classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, something I always wanted to do but postponed eternally because there were more important things. I also joined a reading group with other retired businessmen. We discussed novels, philosophy, history, men of my age who understood that financial success meant nothing if your own family saw you as a useful object. One of them, Frank, a builder who had made a fortune in Texas, told me something that resonated deeply with me. "Robert, children are like investments. You can put all your capital in them, but if the project is poorly planned from the start, you are only financing your own ruin. Sometimes you have to cut losses and protect your emotional capital." He was right. I had invested emotionally and economically in Michael without demanding accountability, without establishing limits, and the result had been predictable. A son who believed everything was owed to him. On June 12th, my 69th birthday, Sarah sent me a package. Inside was a photo album different from the one Michael had sent me. This one had old photographs. Me, with Laura on our wedding day, the kids at their first communion, a vacation where Michael, age 6, built sandcastles, while Sarah, age 4, collected seashells. On the last page was a letter from Sarah. "Dad, these are the memories of when we were a real family. Before money complicated everything. Before we forgot that what is important is not how much you have, but how you share it. I love you. Happy birthday." I cried like I hadn't cried since Laura's funeral, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of cleansing, of purification. That night, I dined alone in an elegant restaurant downtown. I ordered lobster and champagne. The waiter asked me if I was celebrating something special. My rebirth, I told him. He looked at me confused, but smiled politely. The next day, I received an email from an unknown address. The subject said, "From someone who owes you an apology." I opened it with caution. "Mr. Sanchez, I am Emily. I know you will probably delete this email without reading it, but I need to say this, even if it is to the void. You were right about everything. Michael and I were living in a fantasy paid for by you. I treated you horribly because you reminded me that our life was borrowed, not earned, and that made me feel small. These last months have been the hardest of my life. We had to sell almost everything. My bank account is almost empty. I work in an insurance office earning a fraction of what I thought I deserved. Michael works late, every day. Matheve is in a daycare that doesn't have air conditioning. But do you know what is strange? We are happier. Michael and I talk for real now. We don't argue about money because we know exactly how much we have. Matthew is healthy, and I finally understood that life is not a competition with my friends. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that your lesson, although painful, was necessary. Thanks for that, and sorry for everything else. I read the email 3 times. I looked for signs of manipulation, of a strategy, of a plan to soften me, but it sounded genuine. It sounded like someone who had hit rock bottom and had found something valuable down there. Humility. I did not answer the email, but I did not delete it either. July was a month of decisions. My accountant informed me that the property in the Heights had received 3 excellent offers. I could sell it and make a considerable profit. The area had appreciated enormously. "What do you recommend?" I asked him. "Financially, selling is the best option, but you could also rent it at market price. It would generate significant passive income." I thought of Michael living in a small apartment downtown. I thought of Matthew growing up without the space that apartment could offer. I thought about, "No, sell it," I said firmly. "But a highest bidder, are you sure?" Completely, because that apartment represented the old dynamic. The dynamic where I was the silent provider and they were the ungrateful beneficiaries. Selling it was cutting that last financial umbilical cord. The properties sold in August for $200,000, an excellent investment considering. I had bought it for half that 10 years ago. With that money, I established an educational trust, but not for Michael nor for his future children. I established it to give scholarships to low-income youth who wanted to study architecture or engineering, students who appreciated the opportunity because they had earned it with effort, not by last name. The trust carried Laura's name. When the news became public in business circles, I received a call from Sarah. "Dad, I saw him about the trust. It is beautiful. Mom always wanted to do something like that. Now I can. Does Michael know? I don't know, and I don't care." I was lying. I did care. I cared that he knew that the money that could have been his inheritance was changing the lives of people who deserved it. September arrived with its rainy afternoons and dramatic skies. I attended the gala dinner of my business club alone. I danced with 3 charming ladies. I drank top-quality whiskey and laughed more than I had laughed in years. At dinner, I met Betty, a 62-year-old woman, retired architect, widow like me. She had a smile that lit up the room and a sharp intelligence that kept me entertained. All night, we talked about travel, about books, about the difficulty of being a parent in a world that demands we give everything and expect nothing. "My children call me once a month," she told me. "If that, but I have learned that I cannot force them to love me the way I want to be loved. Does it hurt? At first, yes, a lot. But then you understand that they have their lives, and you have too. Build yours. A child's love cannot be the center of your existence after a certain age. It is unfair to everyone." Those words stayed with me. We exchanged numbers. We started going out for coffee, to museums, to concerts. It wasn't romance. Not yet. But it was company. It was conversation. It was remembering that I existed beyond my role of father and provider. On October 3rd, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to do it. "Mr. Sanchez." "Yes, this is Mrs. Garcia from the Rainbow Daycare. I am the director." My heart accelerated. Matthew went to that daycare. "What happened?" "Do not be alarmed. Everyone is fine, but I needed to speak with you. Your son Michael gave me your number as an emergency contact. Why? Because 2 weeks ago there was an incident. Matthew had a very high fever. We tried to contact Michael and Emily, but neither answered. They were at their jobs. Finally, we located them, but 2 hours of anguish passed. Michael asked me to include you as an additional contact. He told me, although we don't speak, I know that if something happens to my son, my father will arrive. I stayed silent, brossing. I just wanted to verify with you that you agree. Yes, I agree. For any emergency with that boy, call me Perfect. Thanks, Mr. Sanchez. I hung up and stared at the phone. Michael had put me as an emergency contact. After all, after the fights, the anger, the wounded pride, when it came to his son's safety, he still trusted me. That meant something. October turned into November. Temperatures dropped. The city prepared for the holidays. I cleaned Laura's grave. I spoke to her as if she were there. Laura, did I do well? Was I too hard? The kids, our kids, they are suffering, and I suffer, too. But I cannot give in. I cannot go back to being who I was. Do you understand me? The silence of the dead offers no answers, but in my heart I felt peace. Laura would have agreed. She was always stronger than me in those aspects. On November 20th, I was at a parade with Betty when my phone rang. Unknown number again. Hello, Mr. Robert Sanchez. Yes, who is speaking? This is Dr. Ramsey from City General Hospital. Your son Michael is here. The world stopped. What happened? He had a car accident. It is not life-threatening, but he has a broken leg and some contusions. He is conscious and stable, but he gave us your number to call you. I am on my way. I arrived at the hospital in 20 minutes. Betty accompanied me, without me asking. In the emergency room, I found Emily in the waiting area with Matthew asleep in her arms. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. Mr. Sanchez, how is he? He is going to be fine, but scared and asking for you. Those last words broke me. Doctor took me to the room. Michael was in the bed with his leg in a cast and his face purple from bruises. When he saw me enter, he started to cry. Dad, I approached. I took his hand, the same hand I stopped holding years ago. I am here. Dad, I am sorry. I am so sorry. Forgive me for everything. Forgive me for being a terrible son. Forgive me for not valuing you. Forgive me for she. Not now. Rests. I thought I was going to die. The car. The other driver ran the red light. I only thought of Matthew, that my son would grow up without knowing his dad. It's like I am letting him grow up without knowing his grandfather. I sat by his side. I did not let go of his hand. You are not going to die. You are fine, Dad. These months have been hell, but they have also been the best of my life because I learned to work for real. To appreciate what I have, to value Emily, because she is with me in good times and bad, not just when there is money. I am glad. And I learned something more important, that love is not measured in dollars. The respect is not bought. That family is something you build every day, not something you demand because a blood tie exists. Those words, exactly what I wanted him to learn. Michael, listen to me. I am proud of you, of the man you are becoming. Really? Really? He cried harder. I cried, too. There in that hospital room, we hugged like we hadn't hugged in years. It wasn't a complete reconciliation. It wasn't erasing the past, but it was a start. Emily entered with Matthew. The boy woke up and saw me. To my surprise, he extended his little arms towards me. Grandpa, that word, that simple word, I had never heard from his lips. I took him in my arms. He smelled of baby soap and innocence. He looked at me with those huge eyes, identical to Michael's when he was a boy. Hi, Matthew. I am your grandpa. Grandpa Robert, said Emily softly. Michael has been talking to him about you. Every night before sleeping, he tells him stories about his grandfather who is strong and wise. I looked at Michael. He nodded. I tell him that someday when I am a better man, we are going to visit you, and that day I am going to be able to look you in the eyes without shame. That day is here, I told him. I spent the whole night at the hospital. Betty left after making sure I was okay. Emily stayed too in the corner chair hugging Matthew. Michael slept thanks to the painkillers. I stayed there in that room watching my family, my injured son, my exhausted daughter-in-law, my sleeping grandson, and I realized something fundamental. I had won not the battle, I had won the war. Because my son had learned, he had fallen, he had gotten hurt, he had hit rock bottom, and there at that bottom he had found his dignity, he had found his strength, he had found the respect that I couldn't teach him with words, but I could with actions. Sometimes the greatest love is letting them fall, so they learned to fly. In the morning when Michael woke up, I asked him, "Do you need anything?" Just that. You are here. I am here. Dad, I am not asking you for money. I don't want you to think that. I know, but I do want to ask you something. Tommy, I want you to know your grandson for real. I want you to come to our house. Even though it is small and humble that you eat with us, even if we only have enough for pasta soup, that you be part of our life, not our bank. I looked at Emily. She nodded with tears in her eyes. Nothing would make me happier. Michael smiled, a genuine smile I hadn't seen since he was a boy. And Dad, someday, when I have money saved, I want to pay you back, even if it is a part of everything I owe you. Not because you asked me, but because it is the right thing. You don't owe me anything. You owe yourself everything. And I am going to spend the rest of my life showing you that it was worth not giving up on you. That afternoon, when Michael was discharged, I took them to their house in my car. It was an old building downtown without an elevator. The apartment was small, maybe 500 square ft, but it was clean, tidy, full of photos of Matthew. And I, sitting on that small, worn-out sofa, felt richer than ever because I had something money cannot buy, a family that finally valued me, not for what I had, but for who I was. That night, back in my big, empty house, I called Sarah. Daughter, can you come spend Christmas with me? Of course, Dad. I was going to come anyway. Invite Michael to, and Emily and Matthew. And bring your boyfriend. I want to meet him. Silence on the other end. Really, Dad? Are you sure? I have never been more sure of anything that happened. It happened that my son finally grew up. And I finally understood that love is not giving everything. It is knowing when to withdraw. So, they learned to walk alone. Sarah cried. I did too. Is it going to be the best Christmas, Dad? Yes, because it is going to be the first one where we all understand the value of being together. I hung up and poured myself a whiskey. I toasted alone in my study in front of Laura's photo. We did it, love. It was painful. It was terrible. But we did it. Cliff said goodbye with its last rains. Descent was about to arrive, and with it, a Christmas that promised to be different. A Christmas where I would not be the silent provider. I would be the grandfather, the father, the man who had the courage to say no when everyone expected a yes. And that, I discovered, was worth more than all the millions in the world. I looked in the mirror before sleeping. I saw a 69-year-old man, tired, marked by life, but with bright eyes, because I had recovered something I thought lost forever, my self-respect, and no one, absolutely no one, would take it away from me again. December arrived, transforming the city with Christmas lights, and the scent of pine on every corner. But this December was different, not just because of the promise of a family dinner that would finally have meaning, but because I had changed. I was no longer the man who begged for crumbs of affection. I was the patriarch who had his throne, not by money, but by dignity. The first days of the month I spent preparing the house. I hired a lady to help me with deep cleaning. I took out the Christmas decorations I hadn't used in years, the nativity set Laura and I bought during our honeymoon, the glass ornaments, the artificial tree the kids decorated when they were little. Every ornament brought memories. Some hurt, others healed. Betty came to help me one afternoon. She brought gingerbread cookies she had baked herself. Your house needs life, she told me while hanging garlands on the staircase. These last months, you have lived like a monk in a very elegant monastery. She was right. I had been so focused on my pain that I had forgotten to live. Will you come to Christmas dinner? I asked her. She stopped mid-decoration. Robert, that is a family dinner. I don't want to intrude. You wouldn't intrude. You would be welcome. Besides, I need someone on my side in case things get tense. She smiled. Are you sure? Completely. On December 10th, Michael called me. His voice sounded nervous. Dad, about dinner. My stomach tensed. Was he going to cancel again? Timmy, I want to bring something. I don't want to arrive empty-handed. Emily and I have been saving. Can we buy the turkey or Michael? You don't need to bring anything. Dad, please let me do this. I need to feel that I contribute. I understood what he was saying. It wasn't about the money. It was about his pride. The good pride. The one that makes you want to contribute, not the one that makes you feel superior. Okay, you bring to Matthew likes cookies, right? He loves them. Emily makes amazing chocolate chip ones. Perfect. Then you bring dessert. I heard his sigh of relief. Thanks, Dad. On December 15th, Sarah arrived from Seattle. She brought Andrew, her boyfriend, a young veterinarian, 38 years old. with an honest smile and a firm handshake. "Mr. Sanchez, it is an honor to finally meet you. Sarah has spoken a lot about you. I hope good things." "Only good things," said Sarah, hugging me. That night, the three of us dined at the house. I prepared my specialty marinated steak. Sarah set the table like her mother used to, with attention to every detail. Andrew opened a bottle of wine he had brought from a vineyard. We talked for hours. Andrew told me about his veterinary clinic, about his work with rescued animals, about his plans to expand the business. Sarah shined by his side. They looked at each other with that love that needs no words. "When is the wedding?" I asked suddenly. Sarah almost spit out her wine. "Dad, I am barely introducing you. I am old, not blind. I've seen you look at each other. And Andrew, you have touched your left pocket 3 times during dinner. Either you have something important there, or you are nervous about something." Andrew turned red. Sarah looked at him, surprised. "It is true." Andrew took a small velvet box out of his pocket. "I was going to wait for Christmas dinner in front of the whole family, but your dad is very observant. He proposed to her right there in my dining room with the Christmas tree lights illuminating the scene." Sarah cried, "I did too." Andrew was shaking while putting the ring on her finger. "Mr. Sanchez, I want to formally ask for your daughter's hand. You already gave it to yourself, son, but I appreciate the gesture. You have my blessing." We hugged, the three of us, and in that moment, I understood something fundamental. Family is not always broken. Sometimes it just needs time to heal. On December 20th, I visited Michael at his work. I had coordinated with his secretary for it to be a surprise. I arrived at 12 lunchtime. I found him at his desk, surrounded by blueprints and models. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "I came to invite you to lunch." He froze. Really? There is a place 2 blocks away." My treat. We had lunch and talked about architecture, about his projects, about his dreams. Michael told me about a contest to design a public park. He was working on his proposal during the nights after putting Matthew to bed. If I win, it would be my first big project with my name, not my boss's name, mine. "Can I see the sketches?" He showed me photos on his phone. The design was brilliant. Green spaces integrated with play areas, accessible paths, strategically located shade zones. There was real talent there. "It is exceptional, Michael. Do you really think so?" "I don't just think so, I know." "So, you have your mother's eye for spaces and my stubbornness to do things right." He smiled. "Dad, there is something I need to tell you." "Tell me." "Emily and we are seeing a therapist." "I didn't expect that." "Why?" "Because we almost destroyed our marriage because of money, because of stress, because of blaming each other. We needed professional help, and it is working. I am glad. That requires courage." The therapist gave us an exercise. We had to write letters to the people we had hurt. I wrote 3. One for Emily, one for Matthew that he will read when he grows up, and one for you. He took a folded envelope out of his wallet. "This is yours. You don't have to read it now. You don't even have to read it ever if you don't want to. I just needed to give it to you." I took the envelope. It was wrinkled from so much time in his wallet. "I will read it. Promise. Promise." That night, alone in my study, I opened the letter. Michael's handwriting was hurried, emotionally. "Dad, I don't know where to start. Sorry. Thank you. I love you. All those words feel insufficient to express what I need to tell you. I was a terrible son. Not just these last years, but always. When Mum was sick, I was building my perfect life with Emily. When you were alone, I was busy being important at my work. When you needed company, I needed money. I saw you as an infinite resource, like a well that would never run dry. And when it dried up, I got mad at you, instead of getting mad at myself. These months without you have been hell, but they have also been my salvation. I learned to work for real. I learned that money is not magic. It is the result of effort. I learned that Emily loves me for who I am, not for what I can give her. I learned that being a father means sacrifice, not delegation. And I learned something more important, that you were always teaching me these lessons, but I was too comfortable to listen. You took away the money, the house, the comforts, and with that, you gave me the greatest gift, the opportunity to become a real man. I don't expect you to forgive me immediately. I don't expect us to go back to what we were. I only hope that someday when you see me, you can feel pride instead of disappointment. I love you, Dad. I always loved you. Only I was too lost to know it. Your son, Michael. I folded the letter carefully and put it in the drawer where I kept Laura's photos. The most important words deserved to be close to the heart. On December 23rd, the day before dinner, I received an unexpected visit. Linda, Emily's mother, knocked on my door at noon, alone, without her usual entourage of arrogance. "Robert, can we talk?" I let her in. I offered her coffee, which she rejected. We sat in the living room with palpable tension between us. "I came to ask for forgiveness," she said finally. I almost fell off the chair. "Excuse me, we owe you an apology. My husband and I treated you horribly. We made you feel inferior. And the worst thing is that we infected Emily with that attitude. Why did you do it?" She stayed silent a moment, looking for the words. "Because we felt threatened by you, by your real success. We inherited our money. Robert Sahoy, my husband, is a businessman only because his father left him the company. I never worked a day in my life. Everything we have was given. And then you arrived. A man who built everything from scratch, who made himself, who has more money than us, but wears simple clothes and drives a normal car, who doesn't need to show off because he has nothing to prove. That made us feel small. So you decided to make me feel small. Yes, and we dragged our daughter into that stupid game, where you taught her to look down on you, to use you, and we almost destroyed her marriage because of that. Why are you telling me this now?" "Because Emily came to my house last week crying. She told me she had been the worst daughter-in-law in the world. That you had been generous and she had been cruel. That Michael had learned more in 6 months of effort than in his whole life, of comfort. And that if I had an ounce of decency, I would come apologize to you." Linda wiped her tears. "My daughter is maturing. Robert C. is becoming a better woman than me, and I don't want to be the kind of grandmother who teaches Matthew the wrong values." I looked at her for a long moment, looking for signs of manipulation, but I only saw genuine remorse. "I accept the apology, Linda. Really, but under one condition. Whatever it is that tomorrow at dinner we all start from zero. No grudges, no competitions, no egos, just family trying to be better. Dill." December 24th dawned cold and bright. I woke up early, full of energy I hadn't felt in years. We had decided to make a traditional Christmas dinner. Prime rib, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, and of course, space for the cookies Michael would bring. Betty arrived at 4 in the afternoon with a pecan pie that smelled like glory. "Nervous?" she'd ask me. "Terrified?" "It is normal. It is your first Christmas with your family in years, and if something goes wrong, then something will go wrong. But you will have tried. That is what matters." At 6 o'clock, they started arriving. First, Sarah and Andrew, loaded with gifts and laughter. Then, Linda and her husband, notably more humble than before. And finally at 6:30, Michael. He was carrying Matthew. Emily brought a huge box of cookies. The three looked nervous. I opened the door before they knocked. "Welcome home." Matthew extended his arms towards me, screaming, "Grandpa," with that high-pitched voice 2-year-olds have. I took him in my arms, and something inside me broke in the most beautiful way possible. "Hi, champion. Merry Christmas." Michael and Emily hugged me, the three of us together in the entrance, forming a circle of forgiveness. "Dad, thanks for having us," said Michael. "This is your house. It always will be." The dinner was magical. We all sat around the large dining table, the one Laura had chosen precisely for moments like this. Matthew in his high chair between Michael and me, Sarah and Andrew radiant with their newly premiered engagement, Betty conversing pleasantly with Linda, Ernest, Linda's husband, and I talking business, but without competition, just exchange. Before starting to eat, I asked for silence. "I want to say something. This year was the hardest of my life. I lost my family, or I thought I had lost it. But in reality, what I lost was a toxic dynamic, a way of relating based on money and convenience. I looked at each of them, and in that pain I found something better. I found dignity. I found respect. I found the opportunity for us all to learn what really matters." Michael had tears in his eyes. "This table has people who made mistakes, me included, but it also has people who had the courage to change, to grow, to ask for forgiveness. I raise my glass. I toast to second chances, to imperfect families that dare to be better. To Laura, who is watching us from wherever she is, probably saying it was about time. And to all of you who made this stubborn old man the happiest grandfather and father in the world." "Cheers," everyone shouted. We ate, we laughed, We told stories. Matthew smeared cookies all over his face, and we all applauded. Andrew told bad jokes that made us laugh anyway. Emily and Sarah connected, talking about recipes and wedding plans. Linda offered to help with the wedding organization without trying to control everything. And Michael and I had a moment alone on the terrace, while the rest sang carols in the living room. Dad, I have something for you. He gave me a small envelope. It is not much, but it is a start. Inside was a check for $1,000. Micah, you need this? Yes, I need it. It is my first real savings. The first money I saved. Instead of spending, I wanted to be the first of many payments, not because you asked me, but because it is the right thing. Son, someday I am going to pay you back everything, every dollar. And when I do, I'm going to be able to look you in the eyes and say, I am a man of my word. I tore the check in front of him. What are you doing? That money is for Matthew, for his education. Open a savings account for him, and every month deposit what you can. That will be your payment. But Dad, Michael, I don't need your money. I never needed it. What I needed was your respect, and you have given me that. That is worth more than all the checks in the world. We hugged there under the city stars with the sound of our family singing in the background. I love you, Dad. I love you too, son. And I am proud of the man you have become. At midnight, we opened gifts. I had bought Matthew a small bicycle with training wheels. His eyes lit up like Christmas lights. Michael and Emily gave me a new photo album full of empty spaces. So, we can fill it together, explained Emily, with new memories. Better memories. Sarah and Andrew gave me a formal invitation to their wedding in April. We want you to walk us both to the altar, said Sarah, as father of the bride and as the man who taught Andrew what it means to be a good husband. And Betty gave me a book, 100 Years of Solitude by Garcia Marquez. You read my mind, I told her. I always wanted to read it. I know. You told me the third time we went out. I was listening. The night ended 2 o'clock in the morning. Matthew was sleeping. On the sofa, the adults conversed with that camaraderie that only appears when defenses are down and hearts are open. When everyone left, I stayed alone in the living room. The tree lights still twinkled. The dirty dishes could wait until tomorrow. I poured myself the last drink of eggnog and sat in my favorite armchair. I took out my phone and looked at the photos I had taken during the night. Matthew with his bicycle, Sarah showing her ring, Michael and I hugging on the terrace, the whole family around the table. There was one photo in particular that made me cry. Betty had taken it without me noticing. I was sitting at the head of the table with Matthew on my lap, surrounded by my family, and on my face there was something I hadn't seen since before Laura died, genuine at peace. My phone vibrated. A message from Michael. Dad, thanks for the best Christmas of my life. See you tomorrow for leftovers. Tradition. Remember. I will never forget it again. I love you, I responded. I will be here. I will always be here. I got up and walked to Laura's photo on the mantel. We did it, my love. It was painful. It was terrible, but it worked. The kids learned. I learned. We all learned. I touched the frame of the photo. I wish you were here to see this. To see Michael working hard, Sarah in love, Matthew growing up, surrounded by true love. You would have loved it. That night I slept with a peace I hadn't felt in years, and I dreamed of Laura. We were young again, dancing at our wedding. She whispered in my ear, I am proud of you. I am proud of me, too, I responded. Months have passed since that Christmas. Michael won the park contest, and his name appears on the plaques as the lead architect. Emily was promoted at her job. Matthew calls me Pop Pop, and comes to my house every Sunday. Sarah got married in April. It was a beautiful wedding where I danced with my daughter and told her that her mother would be proud of the woman she had become. And I learned the most important lesson of my life at 69 years old. True love is not giving everything without limits. It is knowing when to withdraw so others learn to walk alone. Sometimes the greatest show of love is saying no when everyone expects a yes. Sometimes the only way to save your family is letting them fall. And sometimes losing everything is the only way to gain what really matters. My name is Robert Sanchez. I am 69 years old, and finally, I know who I am. A man who had the courage to demand respect instead of buying affection. If you are listening to this story and you identify with it, I want you to know something. You are not alone. Many parents fall into the trap of giving without limits because we confuse love with provision. But the true gift we can give our children is not money. It is teaching them the value of effort, the importance of dignity, and the meaning of respect. And if you are a child who is using their parents, I tell you this, with all the love in the world, wake up before it is too late. Because the day we are no longer here, you're not going to remember the money we gave you. You're going to remember the time you didn't spend with us, and that regret is not cured with anything. Family is the greatest treasure we have, but like all treasures, it requires care, respect, and constant work. Thanks for listening to my story, and remember, it is never too late to recover your dignity. Never.